You're listening to Potty Mouth Radio, the home of movies, music, television, and comedy.
And now, the hunt for the perfect album.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Hunt for the Perfect Album with Billy and Dave. As we're here doing this for you, we're digging through albums, looking for treasures, unskippable tracks is what we're all about. How you doing, Dave?
I'm good. I'm very keen for this app.
Me too.
This is a special one.
Would you like to tell us about Joni Mitchell's Blue and what it means to you and why you chose this one? Why did you choose this? What?
What possessed you to pick this piece of shit? Well, look, like you, I'm a big lover of folk music.
Yeah, we do
generally.
love our folk. Yeah. And you know what? I do, as much as we love folk has been underrepresented on this show. I feel partly because we both know plenty. So
it's hard to pick stuff.
Yeah.
I have started to come to the realization though that because of the sort of slight differential between our ages, that there's things that second nature to me that I think you were just that little bit too young to have been exposed to as a kid.
Yeah.
And this I think is probably one of them. So my love of folk kind of came out of my general love of the 60s in terms of fashion, music, movies, everything that arose during high school. I sort of fell in love, and a lot of my favorite shit, I've already given you the Doors, obviously, on this show. And you can't help but be exposed to folk when you start falling in love with all of that Woodstock era. Yeah. And you can't not be exposed to Joni Mitchell if you're listening to shit from that era, because she is such a pivotal singer-songwriter. She's one of the, like Bob Dylan, she's one of those pinnacles of singer-songwriter, hippie era folk music. And so I was exposed to her in high school off the back of, I think it probably listening to the Woodstock album and then sort of going from there into a number of different artists. And once you start listening to Joni, it's kind of like Alice falling down the rabbit hole. You sort of go from one album to the next. And then eventually, if not immediately, you end up at Blue, which there's a lot of argument among her fan base, but by and large, most people think this is not only her best album, but one of the greatest albums of all time.
Yeah, I was reading
Carole King's Tapestry, or it's one of the Fleetwood Mac's Rumours. It's just one of those albums that's just perennially thought of as, and I'm surprised. To be honest, I'm surprised I haven't given it to you earlier, given the premise of this show is perfect albums, because to me it is one of those iconic, perfect moments in time in terms of albums. Yeah.
I was reading that even as recently as, I think it was 2011 in Rolling Stone's 500 greatest albums of all time, this was number 30 or something.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So let's hop into it then. So like I said last week, I am familiar with Joni Mitchell. I grew up, Dad was a folk musician. He loved folk music. He loved all music. That's where I discovered, Linda Ronstadt as well. Great musicians like that.
She's got a good voice.
Oh, incredible.
She's up there with Eva Cassidy as one of the best voices.
Yeah. Dad was a massive Eva Cassidy fan. He went through this massive phase where his favorite song of all time, The Water Is Wide. And when the internet first launched, like we were one of the first households to get the internet, late 90s. And he went through this massive binge of downloading every single version of The Water Is Wide he could find. And I could tell you there's fucking thousands of them. But, Eva Cassidy, Linda Ronstadt, all these. So I grew up listening to a lot of this music and even to Joni Mitchell, but I'd never listened to one of her albums start to finish. And listening to this album, I actually don't think I was familiar with anything. Certainly not to the level of familiarity where you go, oh, I know this song. Like, I'm sure that I had heard some of them in my youth, but I was not familiar with anything. So
there's a couple of her sort of perennials on here, but there's nothing that's kind of like Both Sides Now or a Big Yellow Taxi or something that's, just remained in sort of rotation ever since.
So I got to tell you up front, this isn't my favorite album that you've given me. But it is the best album you've given me, for sure. This is a fucking great album. The only reason it's not my favorite is because I so far don't think anything will top the Primitives. I love Lovely. I went out and bought it on vinyl.
Can't really
straight
complain
after
about
episode.
that just makes me happy.
It's just more my like. I'm an indie pop guy, and that's what that is.
I knew that was so in your wheelhouse.
But this is a fucking beautiful album, and this is when you talk about perfect albums, this is right up there. I loved every track on this thing. The worst thing about this album is that for some reason it's not available on streaming. It seems like it was, but they've taken it off.
I didn't know. I only saw that today when I went to just get the track listing up in front of me, and I had to go to Apple Music because it wasn't on Spotify. I was like, what the fuck is that?
Is it on Apple Music? Damn it.
Yeah.
I have Apple Music as well as Spotify. I should have gone there. I ended up going to YouTube.
If I'd noticed before, I would have messaged you and said,
Right.
oh, look, if you can't find this.
Yeah, well, I've got both. But I ended up going to YouTube, which is fine. She, actually, the official Joni Mitchell account, has put up the entire album. She's got all of her albums there. The only problem is that they're monetized, so there's ads. So every now and then, between every couple of songs, you get a cheeky little ad. But, geez, this was a fantastic album.
I am on a lonely road and I am traveling, looking for something. What can it be? Oh, I hate you some, I love you some. Oh, I love you when I forget about me.
God, she's just an incredible artist. Her instrumentation, her vocals. I mean, the good thing that came out of this not being available on streaming is I've already gone and ordered it on vinyl just so that I can listen to it because it's so good. Like that track there, the opening track, All I Want Is Beautiful. The thing that I find really fascinating about Joni Mitchell and what I really love about her is it's easy to describe her as folk, but it's very, very different to what I grew up with or define as folk. Like this, she's a lot more... See, I think of folk as very closely linked to punk in a lot of ways. They grew out of kind of the same thing. It's people who couldn't really play their instruments but felt like they had something to say. So, the punk end of the fence, you've got people, thrashing guitars. The folk end of the fence, they're still thrashing guitars. They're just acoustic guitars. And generally,
twang.
Exactly. That is not what Joni Mitchell is. She is an incredible instrumentalist. And even her songwriting and composition, there's huge elements of pop and jazz and all these other different styles that she blends in. What she's doing on the guitar there in Blue, like as a guitarist myself, it's something that's both incredibly easy and incredibly hard to do. Those open strings that you can hear throughout that entire riff that don't change and are just open. It's really easy to do that. It's really hard to make that sound good. Like that's just like, I don't know. I loved that track. I thought that was fantastic.
I love it. One of my favorites.
Not your favorite track though?
Not my favorite track. No.
It's not
I've
mine
got
either.
Probably 5 out of the 9 that I love.
I was going to say it's a relatively short album.
But there are probably 5 that I have on a higher pedestal, and there's one that I have a particular love for. That's very personal. I'm sure it's not going to be your favorite.
Yeah, okay.
In the dark, we don't need no piece of paper from the city hall, keeping us tight and true. Why, oh man, keeping away my blue.
My God, what a singer. God. And again, there we go with the piano. Like she's so talented. So talented.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, we're obviously putting together lists of various cool mixtape bonus eps that we're going to be
Yes,
doing, and we've got a monster list. One thing that I've never put on there as a suggestion is relationship albums.
Yeah, okay.
Because the number one is just such a gimme. This is without a doubt. This is even more than Tallahassee. This is the greatest relationship album ever.
Yeah.
It's just perfect. And, I mean, I think, and I should have checked this, but from memory, she wrote this when she, or at least some of this, while she was touring away from Graham Nash, from Crosby, Stills and Nash, who she was going out with at the time. But she's also, I mean, she is just the center of the music industry back then. She also supposedly wrote the last track on the second last track on this album about Leonard Cohen, who she also dated.
Yeah, she's the 60s Taylor Swift.
David Crosby, also from Crosby, Stills and Nash, produced one or more of her albums. And she dated James Taylor as well.
Yeah. He's seen
Jesus
fire and he's
Christ.
seen rain.
Probably all about her.
It's going to be really hard, honestly. There's only 9 tracks. It's going to be hard not to just play every single one of them. But I have to play a little bit of Little Green because I love this track as well.
Be a gypsy dancer. He went to California. Hearing that everything's warmer than.
Oh my God. Again, just that voice. She's such a beautiful voice.
Christ.
I'm going to sound like
beautiful.
a broken record because I'm just saying the same things over and over again, but her voice is stunning. The music, like, oh my God. Like that guitar riff right there. Again, I guess, I think of folk artists like Jim Croce, who actually is a fantastic guitarist. And, James Taylor, again, who you mentioned before, Fire and Rain, that's a beautiful riff. But what she's doing is just, the reason it's so perfect is that I can picture the riff to Fire and Rain in my head, or Time in a Bottle. They're really memorable. They're more what you'd define as riffs. Whereas what she's doing here on the guitar is beautiful, but it's just so musical and flowing that I don't. It sounds
subtle.
bad that I don't think I'd be able to pick it out of a lineup, for example. But I'm saying that in a good way.
It's not front of center. It's in almost all of her songs. The musicianship is gorgeous.
Yeah.
But it's very rarely front and center. Front and center is always the lyrics and the vocals. The
but as a
instrumentation
guitarist, I can't help it.
It's amazing, but it's always subtle.
Yeah.
With a few exceptions, 100%. But not many.
Because then we get to my favorite track on the album, Carrie.
Oh, we have the same favorite track.
Really? Holy shit. There you go.
I did not think this would be the case. I fucking adored Carrie.
Oh, Carrie, get out your cane. And put on some silk. Oh, you're a neat old daddy, but I like you. Come on down.
What are the odds?
Fuck, it's my favorite. It's all 3 of my kids' favorite.
I love that track.
Joni Mitchell song.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's
so evocative. The lyrics are so evocative.
Yeah.
Slam empty glasses down.
Yeah. Love it.
It's so good.
This was one of those albums where for those first 4 tracks, every single track, I was like, oh, this is my favorite. No, this is my favorite. And then I hit Carrie and that's where it stayed. I do love the rest of this album. I don't think that this album gets weak or anything. I think the whole thing stays really strong.
No, I'm with you 100%. Carrie is just special.
Yeah, it's just great. Jumping ahead, a song that you, I believe from memory, had in our Christmas songs episode River.
Oh, I put River, didn't I? Yeah,
You
yeah.
did. And at the time, it was a shame because I remember this now, that us trying to play it on Spotify and it wasn't there. So we
And
played.
it was a weird live version, which
Yeah.
worked because it had they were doing like sleigh bells and shit
Yes,
in the background.
yeah. So credit where credit's due. Let's play a fucking bit of River.
Nice.
It's coming on Christmas. They're cutting down trees. They're putting up reindeer and singing songs of joy and peace. Oh, I wish I had a river I could skate away on.
Just beautiful. I love it. The little riff at the start playing on Jingle Bells, but it's not cheesy. Like it is
No.
Jingle Bells, but it's not Jingle Bells. It's just great.
Oh, God.
Perfect album, top to finish. Let's just play a little bit of the last track as well. Last time I saw Richard, this is just from start to finish. This is just a fantastic album. Just so good, so pretty. Yep, massive fan. This was a fantastic album. Like I said, I think that 100% this is probably the best album you've given me on this show. 10 out of 10.
Oh,
No
wow.
notes. Like,
Oh, fantastic.
Just loved
Opens
it.
the door as well for future albums because there's different ones. She's got jazzy albums. She's got
No, this
fantastic.
was just beautiful. I loved this so much. So
Awesome.
there
We're
you
going to go out on Case of You.
I will.
Awesome. Nice. No. I am stoked that you enjoyed this because it
loved
is
it.
such a special
From the
album for
moment
me
I
and
put it
Joe.
on, I loved it. And like I said, at no point did I not like this album. And with re-listens, especially without YouTube ads popping up, I'll probably like it even more. Like I said, I ordered it on vinyl straight away after I did my first listen through, and I'm like, I need some way to listen to this album. And if it's not on streaming, then let's just get this sorted because it is.
Yeah.
It's just that good.
I've got a weird little box set of 4 albums, including this one of that were all. I don't know if it's it might be her first 4 or it's 4 that were released under the same label anyway.
Yeah.
That I paid way too.
It happens.
It would have. I'm sure it would have been cheaper to just go out and hunt for each of the individual albums, but I wanted all 4 of them, and at least I have a sleeve to put them in.
Well, you've given me a really hard task because I don't know how to follow this up. So to be honest, what I'm going to do is not try to, because I gave you The Cure last week, which arguably one of the greatest albums of all time.
Good album. Yeah.
So I am going to go back to my roots, do what I've done best on the show, and give you something crazy indie that you've probably never heard of before. And I'm going with an Australian band. It's been a little while since we've done an Australian one, I think. Eve Klein Blue, some lads out of Queensland. They only had from memory 2 albums. This one is their debut album, Ragged and Ecstatic, which came out, I want to say 2009. I was working on a music show on television at the time, and we did a lot of indie music on the show, so that's how I discovered these guys.
Do they have a track called Polka?
Yes, they do. Yes. You know that one, do you?
It was on an ad.
Right. Okay.
I want to say. All right. So this is going to be weird. There's 2 tracks that I heard on ads at almost exactly the same time, and At the time, it was pre-Shazam. I think Pandora was around, or Soundhound, or something. There was some way that I could go, find me this thing.
Yeah.
And one was Polka by Eve Klein Blue.
Yep.
And I've heard nothing else of theirs, so I'm not discounting the album. I'm looking forward to it. But,
that is on this album, so.
oh, awesome. Because
Yeah.
I fucking love that song.
Okay, well, that makes sense why that track is definitely their most listened to. I didn't know that was used in an ad.
That's all me.
Yeah, very
It's
small
me
band.
listening to it over and over again.
Only 10,000
other
listeners
one
on
was-
Spotify, but 2 million streams of Polka. So there
Wow.
you go.
Well,
He's,
that's how I know Eve Klein Blue.
he's hoping that you enjoy Ragged and Ecstatic.
I'm sure I will, because that one track is awesome.
Yeah, well, I think it's a great...
Not awesome enough for me to go seeking out anything else they've done.
Well, it was...
That's probably because it was pre-streaming and I couldn't.
Yeah. It was their debut LP. They had released one EP prior to this, which I think from memory was called Eve Klein Blue Draw Attention to Themselves, which I just think is a bit of fun. But so
That's
there you
awesome.
go.
I love the band name too.
Yeah.
Name yourself after a painter.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. That is next week. Thank you for joining us here as we hunt for the perfect album once again. And I'll play you out with a little bit of Joni Mitchell. Why not?
Oh, let's do it.
Just before our love got lost, you said, I am as constant as a northern star. And I said, constantly in the darkness, where's that at? If you want me, I'll be in the bar. On the back of a cartoon coaster, in a blue TV